Om Gyantimirandasya Gyanandana Shulakaya Chakshuram Militam Yana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadam Mayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyavacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mudaya Mahatmirema Puro Vibhur Nirmaya Kshatirva Shupurusha Vunkte Gunan Sadasa Sadasat Magalan Krishishta Bhagavan Vacham Sime Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, before we start, I wanted to ask for the blessings from all the Vaishnavas, starting with senior most Vaishnavas like Panchagoda Prabhu and other Prabhupada disciples. Senior most and most humble. So I wanted a blessing to do a justice to Srimad Bhagavatam, to speak according to the standards of Bhagavad Gita. Anudvega karam bhakyam satyam priyam hitam chayat swadhyaya vyasanam chaiva manmanata pauchyate. Krishna explains that perfect speech, which is austerity and goodness, means to speak the words which are satyam, truthful, at the same time priyam, pleasing, say the truth in a pleasing way, and hitam, beneficial for everyone, starting with myself, and Swadhyaya Vyasanam, according to the Vedic authority. So we continue reading the 9th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 14, entitled King Pururava, enchanted by Urvashi. And so we have text 20 on the board, but because the previous texts have no purport, we'll read through beginning from text 10. I'll read the texts and then we'll chant text 20 responsively. And we'll start with invocational prayer. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 So, text number 10. Tatyaja Priditattara Kumaram Kanaka Prabham Spriham Angira Saschakre Kumara Samayvacha. Shukadeva Goswami continued, by Brihaspati's order, Tara, who was very much ashamed, immediately gave birth to the child, who was very beautiful with a golden bodily hue. Both Brihaspati and the moon god Soma desired the beautiful child. 11th. Mamayam natavetu chais tasmin vivada manna paprachur rishayo deva naivache vriditatusa. Fighting again broke out between Brihaspati and the moon gods, both of whom claimed, "This is my child, not yours." All the saints and demigods present asked Tara, whose child the newborn baby actually was, but because she was ashamed, she could not immediately answer. Kumaro mataram praha kupito alika lajaya kimna vachasya satprite atma vadyam padashume. The child then became very angry and demanded that his mother immediately tell the truth. "You unchaste woman," he said, "what's the use of your unnecessary shame? Why do you not admit your fault? Immediately tell me about your faulty behavior." Brahmatam raha ayuha samaprakshicha santvayam samasyatyaha shanakai samastam tavat agrahit. Lord Brahma then brought Tara to a secluded place, and after pacifying her, he asked to whom the child actually belonged. She replied very slowly, "This is the son of Soma, the moon god." Then the moon god immediately took charge of the child. Tasyatma yonir akrita buddha it abhidham nripa bhutya gampirayayena putrena poduran mudam. O Maharaj Parikshit, when Lord Brahma saw that the child was deeply intelligent, he gave the child the name Buddha. The moon god, the ruler of the stars, enjoyed great jubilation because of this son. Tata pururava jajje ilayam ya udarita tasya rupa gunaudharya shiladravina vikraman Shutvarvasindra bhavane Yamanam Shurasina Tat Antikam Upeya Devismara Sharadita. Thereafter from Buddha, through the womb of Ila, a son was born named Pururava, who was described in the beginning of the 9th canto. When his beauty, personal qualities, magnanimity, behavior, wealth, and power were described by Narada in the court of Lord Indra, the celestial woman Urvashi was attracted to him. Pierced by the arrow of Cupid, she thus approached him. Mitra varunayo shapat apananara lokatam nishamya purusha srishtam kandarpam ivarupinam Dhritim vistapya lalana upataste tat antike satam vilokya nripatir harshena pulalochana vacha slakshnaya vacha devim rishta tanu ruha. Having been cursed by Mitra and Varuna, the celestial woman Urvashi had acquired the habits of a human being. Therefore, upon seeing Pururava, the best of males, whose beauty resembled that of Cupid, she controlled herself and then approached him. When King Pururava saw Urvashi, his eyes became jubilant in the ecstasy of joy, and the hairs of his body stood on end. With mild, pleasing words, he spoke to her as follows. Shri Raja Vacha Swagatam Te Varo Vararohe Asyatam Karavamakim Samrama Swamayasa Sakam Ratirnao Shashvati Sama. King Pururava said, "O most beautiful woman, you are welcome. Please sit here and tell me what I can do for you. You may enjoy with me as long as you desire. Let us pass our life happily in a sexual relationship." Text 20, please repeat. Urvashi Vacha Urvashi Vacha Kasyastvai na sajeta kasyastvai sajeta manodrishtischa sundara manodrishtischa sundara yat angan taram asadya yadangan taram asadya Shyavate ha riramsaya Shyavate ha riramsaya Synonyms Urvashi Uvacha. Urvashi replied, Kasyaha, of which woman? Tvai, unto you. Na, not. Sajeta, would become attracted. Manaha, the mind. Drishti cha, and sight. Sundara, almost beautiful man. Yat angantaram, whose chest. Asadya, enjoying. Shavate, gives up. Ha, indeed. Riramsaya, for sexual enjoyment. Translation purported by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Urvashi replied, O most handsome man, who is the woman whose mind and sight would not be attracted by you? If a woman takes shelter of your chest, she cannot refuse to enjoy with you in a sexual relationship. Purport. When a beautiful man and beautiful woman unite together and embrace one another, how within these three worlds can they check their sexual relationship? Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam 7.9.45 says, Gyan maithunadi grihamedi sukham hi tujham. End of the purport. Very interesting. Srila Prabhupada doesn't even give the translation of this verse, which is the supposition that by the 9th canto we know all these famous verses from Srimad Bhagavatam. And of course this verse is from the prayers of Prahlad Maharaj, wherein he says that so-called happiness of the Grihamedis, those who try to enjoy sex life, even in the family life, that enjoyment is really insignificant, and it's like rubbing for relieving the itching sensation. So sex is an itching sensation, and so people trying to relieve that. So it's very tucham, insignificant sense gratification. And of course this sense gratification is the topmost happiness for those who have no idea of the real happiness, which is devotional service of the Lord. And so this is very interesting description in here. Ninth canto is full of these sex scandals. And it's all leading to the appearance of Krishna, which is very strange in one sense. And as we've read through those verses, continuing the description of this another sexual scandal on the heavenly planets, how the Tara, the wife of Brihaspati, she had an affair with Soma, and not only that, but she got pregnant by him, and then Brihaspati became mad with her, and he demanded that she explains whose child is this, and then actually she could not respond properly, and he was demanding that she should immediately give birth, which is pretty amazing. But apparently these are heavenly planets, so anything is possible. And so on his request, she immediately delivers the child. And then he's asking, whose child is this? And she's very ashamed, and she doesn't respond. And then, Brahma has to interfere as a mediator in the party and in the dispute, and she admits that this is Soma's child. And then Brihaspati and Soma are fighting for the child. And it's very interesting in here that she could not respond, but then the child was telling, you are a unchaste woman, why are you unnecessarily shameful now? You have to admit to me immediately who's, about your faulty behavior. I mean, we never hear of the newborn child not only speaking, but chastising his mother like that. But this is heavenly planets, that in heavenly planets, as soon as, apparently there is no delivery, this painful delivery as we see in this world. So the children are born without any problems, and they are immediately fully conscious. They immediately have fully manifest consciousness of adults. So a lot of advantages, but a lot of troubles, as we can see from those descriptions. And then why these descriptions are given? Because later that child, who was very smart, to chastise his mother after birth immediately, that's one of the symptoms of being smart. He immediately figured it out, what happened. And then his name became Buddha, very intelligent. And then Pururava became the father, he became the son of Buddha. So Buddha was the father of Pururava. And in text 16, it's referred to the beginning of the 9th canto for the prehistory of who was Buddha, where the Buddha came from. And of course this is not the Buddha who is incarnation of the Lord, but the other Buddha who was the father of Pururava. And this history is even more surprising, because Buddha was before we get to Buddha, we would turn to Buddha's wife. Who was Buddha's wife? Shraddha, what was his name? Shraddhadev Manu, one of the sons of Vivasvan. He wanted to have a son from his wife Shraddha, and then he conducted sacrifice organized by Vasishtha Muni, and he requested, can you please arrange that a son would be born of me? But then his wife Shraddha, she turned to the priest and she said, I actually want daughter. Can you arrange for a daughter? And the priest chanted respective mantras, and as a result, she got a daughter. And then Shadadev Manu was very concerned, and he approached Vasishta and he said, "What happened? That you were supposed to conduct a sacrifice to help me get the son, but instead I got the daughter." And then Vasishta explained that actually this is your wife interfered in the process. She wanted a daughter. And then this is how it all happened. And then Shadadev Manu, he said, "Can you do something about it? Can you change the sex of the child?" Apparently, all these things were happening in the beginning of creation. That all these transgender activities, that this is where they take the root. And so, and he changed the sex of the child. And so this child became male. And then he was given the name Sudyumna. And so he became a king, and once upon a time he was riding on a horse with his associates, and they went to the forest to hunt. And he reached the northern part of the forest, and this was happening at the bottom of Mount Meru, and the forest was named Sukumara. And actually this is the forest where Lord Shiva was enjoying with his wife Uma. And then Sudyumna was hunting in that forest. And what happened before that, some sages, they went into this forest by mistake for meditation, and then they actually saw Lord Shiva enjoying with Uma, and Lord Shiva was okay with that, but Uma was very much ashamed, and she said, "Can you do something about it? Can you protect the forest from the intruders?" And Lord Shiva said, "Okay, in order to protect you from the embarrassment, future embarrassment, anyone, who enters the forest, any male who will enter the forest will immediately be transformed into female." So he just put this curse on the forest. And King Sudyumna had no idea what he's getting himself into. And so he went with his friends on the horses, and then suddenly they changed into women. All of them turned into women. And even their horses, they became mares. And he was, of course, shocked by this situation. And it's described here, they were very morose. We can just imagine. I mean, any of us who are in the male bodies, you can imagine this situation. You can put yourself in Sudyumna's place. That would be great cause for becoming morose suddenly, that you turn into the lady. And so then they had no idea what to do. And then anyway, he had to live like a woman again. So he was not only transgender from the birth, but then at this point he turned into woman again. And but he was a very beautiful woman, and he was roaming around, and then he saw, she, at this point already, she saw Buddha, the son of Moon, who had his ashram in the forest. And she became attracted to Buddha, and they got married. And Buddha impregnate him, and they got the son. And this son's name was Pururava. So this is the prehistory how the Pururava was born. And later, the same lady, whose name was Ila, Sudyumna turned into woman whose name was Ila, went to Vasishta, who was the family guru of the dynasty, and started asking what to do. I want to become male again because, Sudyumna was still a king, and so someone had to manage the kingdom. And then Vasishta went to Lord Shankara and he said, I understand that you've done that for good reason, but can you do something about this, adjust this situation? And Lord Shiva said, well, I cannot completely adjust it, but I can arrange things in such a way that this king will be male for 1 month and female for another month, and then male for 3rd month and female for the 4th month, etc. So his whole life he will be like that. So it's not just transgender, but bisexual as well. And so, in one sense, there is no surprise that from such a progeny, having such a background, Pururava comes out, and of course, he's been quite promiscuous in that sense, and became attracted, lost his head by seeing the beauty of Urvashi, and as we will read on, got himself into huge trouble with her. But yesterday Adipurusha Prabhu gave a very interesting class. He was speaking about the dangers of criticizing, and of course we can criticize the behavior of Pururava and criticize the behavior of other members of those great dynasties, but the important thing is not how it all started, the important thing how it all ended. And Pururava, after going through these hard experiences, eventually he became fixed devotee of the Lord. He achieved his perfection, actually. And it's very interesting how Bhagavatam describes that when Dhruva Maharaj, the son of Uttanapada, he was dealt very harshly by his stepmother, Suruchi. And at that time he was just ignorant boy who wanted revenge for the offense. And he went to pray for the kingdom, because this is what his mother suggested, in the forest. But after he achieved perfection, it's been described that his brother Uttama was killed in the forest, and this was the reaction for the offense Suruchi committed. Suruchi was his mother. Suruchi committed towards Dhruva Maharaj. And so Srila Prabhupada explains that even if we mistreat someone who is imperfect, but if that person will become perfect later on, we'll get the karmic reactions for this. As if we committed, offended great saints. So it's again another confirmation that we do not want to condemn anyone. We don't know what is there in the future for that person. And Krishna consciousness is very powerful, as we can understand that it can transform even imperfect personalities into those who are completely perfect. But of course, as we know, both Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita and every single Shastra is criticizing lust, because there are three gateways leading to hell: lust, anger, and greed, as the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita explains. And it all starts with lust. And it's very interesting how much lust is condemned and still how much lust is prevailing in even the Vaishnava circles, that it's not as easy to give up lusty desires as to just read or listen about it in the Bhagavatam. And it's very interesting how we may know everything and still be affected by lusty desires. And this is exactly what Arjuna is asking at the end of the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita. He says, what is that great force which impels one to act against one's desires? And Krishna says, well, this is lust, Arjuna, all-devouring, sinful enemy of this world. And so, therefore, it's really important to understand what's happening, why lust and anger and greed and pride and envy and illusions are so stubborn, all these enemies of the conditioned soul, despite of chanting Hare Krishna, despite of reading Prabhupada's books, despite of rising early in the morning and doing whatnot, so much service to Krishna Guru and Vaishnavas, etc., etc. And for that we need to look at the very root of the problem, because lust is one of the fruits. It's not really the root cause. And where the root is in the spiritual world. Urdhvamula madashaka ashvatam prahuravyayam. Krishna explained that this great banyan tree is of the material existence is just a reflection of the original tree of the spiritual world. And so, because that reflected tree has the roots upwards, right, and branches downwards, but the original tree has the roots downwards. And so the roots are in the spiritual world. And what is the root cause of our conditioning? And Srila Prabhupada explains that this is envy towards the Supreme Lord. Our envy towards the Supreme Lord. And actually, if we look at it, every single anartha is based on envy. Because I'm envious, oh, someone's enjoying, why can't I enjoy? Then it turns into lust. And when our lust is unsatisfied, as Bhagavad Gita explains, kama krodha bijayate, it turns into anger, it turns into wrath. And when it is satisfied for a very long time, some people are lucky enough to satisfy their lust for a long, long time, then it turns into pride, right? And greed also. And it's all called delusion. So all these troubles, they originate from our envy towards Krishna, and it's really amazing how stubborn this envy is. And actually, the best antidote for envy is to serve and to glorify the object of envy. This is the whole process of devotional services. This is the cure. And if we look at Krishna's pastimes, there is a very interesting description in Dwaraka Leela, how Krishna was requested by Lord Indra to help him with killing one demon, Bhaumasura. And Krishna responded because he stole the earrings of Indra's mother, Aditi. And so Indra said, "Can you please help me with this demon and get the earrings of him?" And so Krishna goes on Indra's request and kills Bhaumasura and retrieves the earrings and flies all the way to the heavenly planets and delivers the earrings for Indra to Indra's mother. So he, rolled up his sleeves and did what Indra wanted him to do. And then he went to the heavenly planets with Satyabhama, and Satyabhama saw the Parijata growing in heavenly planets, and she wanted some Parijata flowers. So Krishna said, "We'll get one tree, so you'll get, flowers at any time." So he just, unearths one tree to take with him to heavenly planets. I mean, to the earth, to Dwaraka, from heavenly planets. And then what happens? Indra's wives are telling him, "Have you seen what happened? Krishna dug out one of our Parijata trees without any permission, and he wants to take it back to Dwaraka. We have to do something about it." And Indra becomes enraged and attacks Krishna. And Krishna has to fight with him and beat him up, and still takes the Parijata tree and brings it to earth. This is how we have Parijatas growing on earth now. But this is really amazing. And Shukadeva Goswami, in the chapter 59, text 41, says the following: "Even after Indra had bowed down to Lord Achyuta, touched his feet with the tips of his crown, and begged the Lord to fulfill his desire, that exalted demigod, having achieved his purpose, choose to fight with the Supreme Lord. What ignorance there is among the gods! To hell with their opulence." So that's why Srila Prabhupada was saying pride leads to fall, right? Because Lord Indra became so proud that it's amazing that he knew very well that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, but he was engaging him in his service. And he was so proud that even Krishna is serving me, even the Supreme Lord is serving me. We can understand, mundane religiosity is all about it. The Lord is my order supplier. And that makes one very proud. And this is where all the problems start. And if something goes wrong, then one becomes unhappy with Krishna, then one becomes unhappy with Krishna consciousness, right? And so then everything is ruined. So this is the origin of lust. Lust means to compete with Krishna for sense gratification, because everything belongs to Krishna. And so what is the antidote for lust? It is service. and service, we can understand that and it's not just, because in this verse, Krishna served, Indra served Krishna, right? He bowed down to him, touched his feet. Apparently, this is service, but his mentality is not, he doesn't have the service mentality. His mentality is that Krishna is my order supplier. So it's not about what we're doing externally, how many times we bow down, how many times we chant the holy names, etc., etc. It's all about service mentality. And that service mentality is the best antidote for lust, anger, greed, and all other problems. And the entire Varnashrama is meant for developing that service attitude. And it all starts with brahmachari training. And what is the service attitude of brahmachari? I am the servant of my spiritual master. And then grihastha. That's even higher ashram than brahmachari. And grihastha ashram means I'm not only servant of my spiritual master, but of others also, at least one woman and my children, right? And hopefully a few more people, at least some relatives. So my service is expanding. Vanaprastha is even greater service mentality. And sannyas means Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The entire world is my big family. With Krishna as the Supreme Father. And that's why, because everyone is Krishna's children, I have to serve everybody, right? And if someone achieves topmost level of perfection, like our Panchagoda Prabhu, he can serve his spiritual master, he can serve his family, he can serve everyone in the Vrindavan, ISKCON Vrindavan community, and he can also serve in New York. So one can cover everything. So, but it's all about service. And naturally, service attitude creates humility. And humility means one becomes immune to a fall down. It's very interesting how in Krishna's pastimes, when Kauravas and Pandavas were fighting at the Kurukshetra battlefield, and Pandavas were attacked by invincible weapon, which was like Brahmastra, but this weapon was only attacking those who have anger, who are in that, fighting attitude. And that weapon could not be counteracted. Of course, Krishna could do everything, whatever he wanted, but just to teach an example, he didn't want to counteract this weapon. He told Pandavas, this weapon you cannot resist, you can do nothing about this weapon. The only solution is to stop thinking about fighting at all. And you have to just lay down, pay dandavats to this weapon, and forget about fighting altogether. Just switch off. Think about something pleasant. And this is what they did. They just lay down and forgot about the fighting. And then this weapon went, over their heads and then exploded somewhere else. And after this happened, Krishna said, okay, now you get up, continue fighting. So that's very interesting. How can we ensure that we never fall down? Very simple solution. Never get up. If you're already lying in dandavats, is there any chance to fall down? Of course, we do not speak about physical dandavat like that. Otherwise it would become very convenient type of devotional service. Like just keep lying down. Let someone bring you prasadam. Take prasadam and continue, carry on. We're not talking about this because, as we were mentioning, it's not physical, it's mentality, which is important. And this mentality of being Trinada Pisunichana, Tarora Pisahishna, Amanina Manadana, Kirtanya Sadahari, why Lord Chaitanya was always emphasizing this particular verse? Because this is the only formula to be tolerant, more tolerant than a tree, more humble than the blade of grass, and always very respectful to everyone, and never expecting any respect to ourselves. And this is the only condition for us to continue chanting the holy names. And without chanting the holy names, we can understand there is no possibility of continuing with our services. And so that's why humility is the only antidote for lust, anger, greed, illusions, of course pride, and envy. And that's why Srila Prabhupada was saying, discussing the matter with his godbrother, what was his initiated name? Dr. Kapoor. He is known as Dr. Kapoor, but Adikesho Prabhu, yes, that he told him once that I discovered the formula for love of God. And Adikesho Prabhu said, what is the formula? He said, unfortunately, even though I know the formula, I cannot apply it. But he said, forget about it, just tell me the formula. He said, Trinada Pisunichana is the formula. I know the formula, I cannot apply it. And so, but this is the only formula for our success in Krishna consciousness, and there is no other solution. As we say, there is no other way besides the chanting of the holy name, and if we want to continue chanting the holy name, this is the only formula to achieve success in our devotional service. And we have only two choices. We either become humble or humiliated, by embarrassed by material energy. And hopefully, if we are intelligent enough, we will choose voluntarily to develop our humility without waiting to be humiliated by Maya. And this is what this entire Srimad Bhagavatam, 9th canto especially, teaching us. Gives all these examples, and of course the topmost example of perfect humility is Krishna himself. There are so many pastimes how Krishna exhibits topmost humility. At the Rajasuya sacrifice, he is washing everybody's feet, the Supreme Lord. And there are so many other examples. When Krishna and cowherd boys, they take lunch and then the calves disappear, Krishna says, you continue taking your lunch, I'll go and find the calves myself. So he is not waiting to be served. He has this perfect service attitude. And that's why he is the most perfect Supreme Lord. And that's why we're supposed to be following in his footsteps and developing the same qualities like him. Hare Krishna. So we still have Panchagoda Prabhu. A few minutes.
I'm just thinking about yesterday and today. We're thinking how this ninth canto is very controversial, or maybe a little astonishing for us. But when we see great personalities, kings, and various other prominent people also have a difficulty with lust, difficulty with the mind, difficulty with relationships, even though they're in the heavenly planets trying to enjoy. It's kind of like this final purging before the 10th canto comes, thinking that unless, we might be so discouraged that if we're only hearing about how everyone's controlling their senses, never having any kind of fall downs or not having, we might think that we have a hopeless case with ourselves being so conditioned or so attracted by what we're reading about, that we might give up our enthusiasm. But we see that we're getting special mercy, and now the beauty of Krishna coming in the 10th canto should encourage us, and hopefully we have some more hope in our pursuits of spiritual life. Just a comment word.
Thank you. Yeah, perfect. Actually, I was thinking about it also that there are two types of people according to Bhagavad Gita. Sura evacha, that there are only divine and demoniac people. Now, actually, in the 15th chapter, Krishna says something else. Dvisarga bhutalokismin kshara chakshara evacha. He says there are two types of people: those who are fallible and those who are infallible. And then he says a very interesting thing. Infallible people live in infallible world, in the spiritual world. And all fallible people, they live in here, in the material world. And so, my understanding, and if I'm wrong, someone can correct me, is that there are two types of people, devotees and demons, as Prabhupada explains. And devotee is one who understands himself to be imperfect and never claims to be perfect. And demon is the one who claims himself to be perfect. This is exactly what the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita explains. Ishwaraham aham bhogi siddhoham balavan sukhi. I am the Lord, I am the Master, I am the enjoyer, and I am perfect, siddho, and I am powerful, and I am happy. That's demon. That's demoniac mentality. And that's why you can see that devotees, they always lament about their imperfection, and demons are always bragging about their perfection and criticizing everybody else and looking down at everybody else. Thank you, Guru.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you for your nice class. I have a question which I've been struggling with for some time. Is that in the line of humility, we know that Bhakti Rasayana Sagar was very pleased when his disciples, or his brothers at the time, brahmacharis, would go out and fiercely preach, fearlessly, and sometimes they would even be beaten up and come back, and then would tell their Guru what happened, and he was very, very pleased with this. We have this example of Madhvacharya, I think it is, that he used to grab the Mayavadis by their shirt. Why are you cheating people? Now, in that line, I've been preaching also fiercely. But the results were not as, sometimes you seem to get reactions.
Yes.
Because in debate, in Shastra, in Sanskrit, these rules of humility and etiquette are actually not followed. And it's supposed to be like that. It's not that because you are elder in age or senior in position, that therefore your argument is always right in debate. So my question would be is, how does humility apply to these kind of cases where education, discussion, preaching, and sometimes even as a spiritual master you finish people who are senior in age than you?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Sure. Yeah. Very relevant question. And of course, if we are always meek and humble in every situation, then people will think you're weak and you are useless. And of course, sometimes you have to be strong. But again, it's very important. And of course, for us, the brightest example is Srila Prabhupada, that he was very powerful and he would tell very radical things, like a good argument for a scientist is to take off the shoe and beat on the scientist's head or something like that, make them understand, etc. So he was making many, many very strong statements, and he was acting in a very strong way on many occasions. But it's important to understand where the following ends and where imitation starts. And Prabhupada was very strongly warning devotees against imitating him. And one Srila Prabhupada disciple from London, Sakshi Gopal Prabhu, he shared his memory where when he was traveling with Srila Prabhupada in the car through the central London, and it was Saturday, and anyone from UK in here, you know that Saturday is the shopping day, and the whole, country goes crazy. They just run around, looking for sales and all this. Like book distributors saying it's really dangerous to stand in these people's way. They can just run over you. If they see the sign sale and you try to offer them a book, they'll knock you down. And Srila Prabhupada looked at all this madness, people just running around for shopping, and he started saying, all these people are such fools and rascals. They don't know what they're doing. They're just wasting their life. And he was going on and on about it. And it seemed like he was really angry and very critical of these people. But then Sakshi Gopal Prabhu said, when I looked at Prabhupada's face, tears were streaming from Prabhupada's eyes very profusely. And so he realized that it was not, Prabhupada's anger or frustration or negativity. It's like old people in the material world, because they cannot enjoy, they criticize young people for enjoying, or someone who is artificially renounced. I think Adipurush Prabhu touched on this point yesterday. Someone who is artificially renounced will always be angry at sense gratifiers. Why they gratify their senses? I have to control my senses. Why they enjoy? So, and sometimes, we can see those things. But Srila Prabhupada's motivation was different. It was love. And in the same way as a parent, if he sees the child doing something stupid, he becomes angry. But this anger is not motivated by lust, or it's just motivated by love. And so, because Srila Prabhupada had this level of love towards everyone, when he was telling people very strong things, people were grateful. And a very interesting episode was shared by Ravindra Swarup Prabhu. He said, Srila Prabhupada was talking with one professor. As we know, he was asking his disciples to arrange meetings with different influential people. And so this was professor of Hinduism. And Srila Prabhupada said, okay, you're professor of Hinduism. So what is the essence of Hinduism? Who is God? And the professor was saying, well, Swamiji, I cannot tell you exactly. And Srila Prabhupada said, so that means you don't know? He said, yes, I don't know. And then Prabhupada turned to his secretary and said, how do we call someone who is teaching something he doesn't know? And the secretary said, Srila Prabhupada, we call this person a fool. And Prabhupada turned to the professor and he said, well, this is how we define someone who is teaching something one doesn't know. And so they exchanged few words, but the conversation was pretty much finished at this point, because professor was obviously upset with what Srila Prabhupada said. But then later, Ravindra Swarup Prabhu says, when I met with that same professor, he said, when I met with your spiritual master, and he actually called me a fool. And at that time, it was very hard for me to accept. But later, I realized he was right. So that's amazing, transformational power that Prabhupada was, on such a level that he could cut through to the soul and help someone to realize what's wrong with me and transform oneself. And unless we are on this level, if we imitate Srila Prabhupada, we will only create enemies around ourselves. So it's very important for us to follow Srila Prabhupada and his followers. Always be dasa, dasa, anudas, and never try to imitate. But when we achieve perfection, there is no problem. We can get on everybody's case, and everyone will be glorifying us and will be grateful to us. Thank you.
Thanks. Maharaj, you were speaking about that Indra requested Krishna to get hearing of his mother in Vrindavan. Then when he gave him this thing, then Krishna took Parijat power, tree from there, and Indra fought with him. So he knew that he is powerful, and he asked him to white Manasura and bring hearing from him. How this misunderstanding was with him?
How Indra could be in such an illusion to think that he can fight with Krishna successfully. Well, the scientists say that male's brain is functioning in a different way from female's brain, and this is incidentally, also to contribute to the point why Shastra is saying that ladies are less intelligent. Because ladies' psyche is dominated by emotions, but the advantage of female brain is that both hemispheres are turned on at the same time. So ladies can analyze and they can, be emotional at the same time. But males, mostly they function on the intellectual and logical level, which means only half of the brain, and the other half is switched off. So men are only operating with half of their brain, whereas women are operating with the whole brain, more holistic approach. And so, but because ladies are dominated by emotions, it's really hard for them to be purely logical, purely intellectual. But the trouble with a man, if they switched to the emotional side, to the emotional hemisphere, the logical and intellectual hemisphere switches off totally. And that's why we can see men are doing completely stupid things, completely irrational things under the influence of their emotions. So, in that situation, apparently what happened that Indra's wives, they excited him, triggered him, and so, then he became angry with Krishna and he forgot about everything. And then he was thinking, okay, let me fight with Krishna. And then only after Krishna beat him down Then, his intellectual side started functioning, he realized his mistake. And yeah, you can see that with men all the time. That's their problem. That's why most men require women who will help them to kind of, balance this out, emotions and intelligence. That there is a joke, Russian joke, about the secret of happy family life. Anyone's interested to know? That happy family means she is doing what she wants to do and he is doing what she wants to do. That's the happy family life. So, family life means woman is in charge. And if family man does not realize that from the start, his wife will help him. It also says there are two ways how women can be controlled, but unfortunately nobody knows them. No one discovered them yet. These two ways. So. Anyway, so I think we have to finish before I've got cursed for the delay. Thank you all very much for your kind attention. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande.